In 1913, Carl Jung began treating a patient whose life was in a state of total collapse. She was highly introverted, chronically unemployed, and seemingly incapable of maintaining any stable human connection. Her behavior mimicked severe mental illness. She reported an inability to engage in small talk because she was constantly bombarded by the psychological reality of others, sensing every lie, every hidden resentment, and every pocket of emotional pain. Peers and employers found her presence disruptive. Her tendency to voice the unspoken tensions that groups work hard to ignore led to her being labeled as unstable, dramatic, and a source of constant social friction. Jung's private notes reveal a diagnostic reversal. When he verified her observations through careful questioning, he found them remarkably accurate. He realized he was observing a form of consciousness that had outpaced the social environment's ability to tolerate it. The patient was suffering from a perception so differentiated that it made the shared illusions of 1913 society impossible to sustain. For her, survival required a level of psychological integration that few people ever achieve. Jung categorized this specific group as the introverted intuitive type, a rare demographic representing roughly 1% of the population. These individuals possess a psychic apparatus tuned to pick up on unconscious emotional states and repressed content that others miss entirely. The danger inherent in this ability is the absence of a psychological filter. High sensitivity means the individual processes not just their own experiences, but the entire unconscious atmosphere of their environment. Jung called this state participation mystique. The individual becomes flooded with the unlived emotions and secret motivations of others, causing their psychological boundaries to dissolve. This creates a risk of psychological annihilation. Without a way to distinguish their own inner world from the external environment, the individual's identity is effectively consumed by the collective unconscious of the room. Jung identified 4 specific ways this hyperperception manifests, each presenting a unique cognitive challenge. The feeling intuitive experiences severe emotional contagion. They absorb the unlived emotions of everyone in their environment, feeling these external states in their own bodies as if they were their own. The thinking intuitive uses unconscious pattern recognition to accurately predict behavioral outcomes. They often forecast relationship failures or career disasters months in advance, by recognizing the logical conclusions of processes that others cannot yet see. Sensation intuitives act as physiological early warning systems. They detect physical manifestations of stress or illness in others, sensing bodily tension and fatigue long before the symptoms are consciously acknowledged. Finally, the pure intuitive receives vast, chaotic amounts of unconscious information. This is the rarest type, characterized by an influx of data so massive it lacks a clear psychological structure for constructive processing. Regardless of the specific type, the individual is left entirely unprotected against the psychic weight of their environment. This hyperperception creates intense social friction. When an individual sees through the shared illusions that hold a group together, they inadvertently become a destabilizing force. Jung observed that groups frequently engage in shadow projection. They unconsciously attack the person who reflect their hidden flaws and deceptions back at them, effectively punishing the observer for the truth they've revealed. When confronted with their own shadow, a group faces a choice. They can integrate the uncomfortable truth and evolve, or they can protect their self-image by attacking the mirror. Friedrich Nietzsche represents the outcome of unintegrated perception. He used his insights as a weapon against society, identifying himself with his superior vision while remaining isolated from human connection. This eventually led to his total psychological collapse. Jung contrasted this with the medieval mystic Meister Eckhart, who channeled his profound perception into wisdom and service. Eckhart spoke in ways that invited others to understand their own inner reality, rather than judging them for it. Without the ability to manage this gift, the perceptive individual inevitably becomes a repository for everything a group cannot acknowledge about itself, becoming the designated scapegoat for society's darkness. Jung's solution was a systematic process he called individuation. This is a method for developing a conscious relationship with one's perceptions to prevent them from becoming overwhelming. It begins with differentiation. Jung taught his patients to use daily solitude, to distinguish between their authentic inner experiences and the psychological material they unconsciously absorbed from others. Next is shadow integration. By acknowledging their own capacity for selfishness or deception, the individual stops being triggered by seeing those same qualities in others. This allows them to see clearly without falling into the trap of judgment. The final step is developing psychological containers. This is the ability to hold the unconscious contents of others temporarily while maintaining the awareness that those feelings do not belong to you. This process builds a psychological immune system. It allows the individual to utilize their perceptual gift as a tool for understanding rather than suffering from it as a burden. This shift transforms the individual's social role. Highly perceptive people act as scouts for the collective, identifying psychological problems before they become obvious to the group. Jung observed that insights that appear first in an individual eventually manifest as broad cultural transformations. These people explore psychological territories that the rest of humanity will eventually need to understand. This perceptual gift functions as a bridge. By sensing collective problems in their infancy, the individuated person can help surface these truths before they manifest as destructive societal crises. The danger of seeing everything lies in failing to develop a conscious relationship with that vision. Once mastered, this perception provides the early awareness necessary to guide human development away from its own unacknowledged shadows.